It's okay. Yeah, I mean, we kind of had a meltdown as well. I think you probably, I don't know, a little bit of a meltdown. So we
How
kind of,
so?
yeah, decided to stop.
Okay.
And but now we're started again.
Okay. Okay.
Um, what I think what happened was when we read your advice, it was just it all seemed like too much, you know.
Mm. Hmm.
Um, so Lola was like, "Nah, it's too
Okay.
much to take on." You know, she seemed like it was like the only way to do the project would be to try and, which is what we're going to do, try and um, find some back. We need a charity to help us. I don't think we can
Yeah.
start our own charity. I think for the two of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. So
Okay.
that's right now, but we're really inspired because yesterday there was a team from Bethlehem playing in Ireland.
Okay. Nice.
They had a team, and the same refugee camp. They're going on tour to South Africa in the summer.
Okay. Oh,
So it's
perfect.
kind of inspiring that
Okay.
we know it's possible, you know.
Yeah. No, it is. It's definitely possible. And yeah, I think sometimes what happens is, you know, and now we're humans. I think we find something and our heart and passion is fully in it, and that's the beautiful part of it. And then there's the reality of the politics and the policies and the procedures, and
Mhm.
sometimes that kind of gets in the way, and it can be a little bit like discouraging for sure. And so and the goal wasn't really to by like developing like a detailed plan, which you guys have already tried to understand, like what does it take to start this. I think part of that plan was to kind of really like put it out there, like, hey, here's our resources, here's our energy, here's our like determination and willingness. Does that match the amount of effort that it'll take to do this? And it's
Mhm.
more so kind of strengths, weaknesses, like our opportunities assessment. And sometimes like, okay, if we have the manpower and the money and the time to go ahead and start the foundation, like let's do it. But if not, which is the other thing that I talked to some of my friends with, is like there are some people who are already doing it, agencies doing it, and they're
Mhm.
like kind-hearted agencies, right? Who have like the same passion and values as you all do in terms of getting these kids out and helping them out. And I think sometimes partnering with them is important, because the hardest part sometimes is the leaping over the political and the policy and everything to kind of get the foundation started, which sometimes is the hardest part. And so I'm happy that, you know, you two took a little bit break, because that's also important to understand, like, hey, are we able to do this? And just kind of take a step back, and then also know that just because you take a step back doesn't mean that you can't do it. And then in fact, it sounds like you two have a little bit more energy as you're taking a different approach.
Well, yeah, that's exactly. I mean, I'm coming from a kind of conceptual art thing where the whole documenting the process for me is a
Yeah.
piece of work. And
Yeah.
she's also got this ballet movement
Yeah.
artistic side.
Hmm.
But when it comes to the bureaucracy, we just want someone else and the accounts and the legal stuff, we just want somebody else to take care of that. And we deal with the fun
Yeah.
artistic part. But it
Yeah.
doesn't work like that. We need, before we approach anybody to do that, we
Yeah.
need to clean up our act and like go through what the list you gave us, which we did go through, but it was just like that was I think the next day she was like, no
Yeah.
chance. It's not my skills. I think my skills are not there, you know.
Mhm. Yeah, well, but like you said though, it also kind of gives us under sense of understanding, like, oh, can we take a different approach? And it sounds like so talk to me about how that's been. And then maybe before we talk about that, I just personally I was hoping that this call would be just to kind of check in, see how you're doing emotionally, and just kind of really hash out anything that
I
you
mean,
want to talk about, because I know there's a lot that you're going through personally.
well, I would talk to you for 3 hours every day. It'd be like great free therapy course because I know that's your expertise, you know, dealing with trauma and the
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's a
But this is
emotional.
not therapy. This is just a friend showing up for a friend.
Well, I'll tell you. I mean, like the question that you asked me is an emotional roller coaster, and I'm looking at it too much. I'm looking
Yeah.
at what's going on too much, and I'm studying it, and it makes you it can be, it's very dark.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. When did you leave Afghanistan? When you were 10?
It was on and off, yeah. Like around 5 is when we started, and then kind of going back and forth between there and Pakistan. So yeah,
I
but
mean, this is
coming to
one
the
thing.
US,
I'm going on about my trauma and me, and my ego. But I'm just then I think, shit, these kids, what are they seeing every day? And what
yeah,
it,
yeah,
it, it's just weird. It's just, and then I'm just like, well, I don't know. It's really hard to explain. But
yeah,
yeah, it's a roller coaster. But I have a problem. I think I'm addicted to looking at what's going on there.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's an obsession, and I don't know, maybe that's a big problem, but
hmm Yeah, yeah. It could definitely like suck you in and to a degree, to the plate, to the, I guess, to a level to where it's sometimes hard to, well, thankfully you're recognizing it, but hard to kind of get out of that pattern, right? So, oh, like right now, I mean, I know you said that, and sometimes as soon as you get home, you turn on TV and you kind of start looking and searching and all that. How are you doing with that? Like once you recognize, hey, this is just kind of sucked me in so much that I can't really see, uh, or even like show up, right, for yourself, for others. Uh, like have you pulled back a little bit? Have you done anything
yeah, I've
differently?
had like
A
I
little
took
bit?
a day off once, and it was great. I
Okay.
had a day off, and I just
Yeah.
didn't. I left my phone in the house, and
Nice.
it was quite liberating.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and then when I'm with my son, He's got football training, so he'll come back, and that's no problem. But there's a
Nice.
week when he's gone, and then it feels like I'm only happy. It's stupid if I post a picture or write something and no one sees it. Nobody,
Mm.
or else anybody that sees it thinks the same way as I do. So I'm not doing anything to change anything,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it makes me feel a little bit better.
Which is, I guess, everybody's goal in life, right? To feel a little bit better. No, no, I think ultimately, right? Like our
Yeah.
goal is to like get away from misery and suffering and try and like, have like a world where we feel like things are going the way that we want it to. But I am glad that you're taking a step back because yeah, I think uh understanding like how much things like this can take out of you, it could be quite overwhelming, especially I mean, you being like a father and then,
Yeah.
still being like a man yourself and then having your own priorities, having your own thing. It can be difficult to kind of give up all yourself just to, you know, not that it's a bad thing, but sometimes it's like, oh, whoa, how much do I have to give? And you've given a lot. It sounds like a lot of energy, a lot of time, a lot of emotions.
I want to go
Uh,
back. I mean, I want to go there and give my time, but that seems like we should. At one point, we were going to go back because there's a meeting happening right now. There's a sort of, it's called Christ at the Checkpoint.
okay,
It happens every couple of years, and
okay,
so it's this kind of spiritual Christian conference where they're
okay,
talking about
yeah,
the situation, from
yeah.
a Christian
Mhm.
perspective.
Yeah. May I ask, for you, Martin, personally, like even this project aside and this mission aside, what do you tend to turn to when it comes to like making sense of life's challenges and suffering and difficulties? Because we see it all around, right? Like, so how do you make sense of it, like in your head about why it's happening and all that?
Why it's happening makes sense.
Well,
I mean,
well,
there's
the
no way to
important
make.
question, I guess, for you, because as you, like I said, we do see suffering and pain all around us every time, whether it's
Mhm.
Israel or Somalia or Haiti or whatever, like it's constantly all around us, right? And so for you, as you look at the various types of suffering and the challenges and the pain all around us, and then so that's one aspect of humanity is like the suffering, but then there's like other parts of it where like things are good and kids like your uh kids like your kid gets to go to a football place and have like a hopefully normal life. How do you make sense of like the vast difference and like the pain and the suffering and the good that comes out of life? Like, do you attach one more to one than the other?
More to one what than the other. One.
Oh, one, I guess, way of life. Like, do you attach more to like people's pain and suffering and difficulties as opposed to like the good that's also going on
No, I
because
think it's unbalanced that way. I mean, there's no sense to it. When you say how do you make sense of it, well, I understand that it's nonsense. I understand that it's driven by money,
yeah, part of it, right?
and,
Yeah, yeah.
and power, money, whatever you want to call it. But I mean, I don't want to be. I don't. I question everything, you know, and what I to make sense of it in a sort of what I feel is right now is like it seems like the West
Mm,
is like a dead dog, and it's barking. This is it
yeah.
barking because it's going down, man. Democracy failed, capitalism's failed. You really want me to go into this? Is that what you mean? Is that your
Yeah,
question?
I just kind of want to hear how you're kind of because for me, like I think understanding like what really at the core of it is important for you is also significant for me to know, you know? Like
Um,
why like what does it what about it stings and hurts so much, you know, deep down?
wow. Well, I kind of see it from a artistic thing, you know. I think like um maybe I'm not really understanding the question.
Yeah. Oh, no, I think part of it just kind of understanding like for you, you know, is there any part of like the people's suffering and pain that kind of makes sense as like the normal part of natural way of living and the law of nature of like, you know, things are born and then they die and it's just kind of constantly like things change and there's impermanence to a lot of these things and understanding that we can't hold on too much to like the good stuff just like we can't hold on too much to the bad stuff and just kind of letting life be as it is rather than as we want life to be, right? Because if we wanted life to be the way we want to be, we'd constantly want like rainbows and sunshines, right? We'd never want suffering. But like I think when you look all around us with trees, with nature, with life, with death, like it's constantly ebb and flowing, right? Like things happen and then it's done. Everything is very impermanent. So as you look at these kids as challenges and suffering and the pain, do you see it as a thing of impermanence or do you feel that like that's going to be a permanent thing for them because those mindsets like can give you a great sense of hope or a great sense of like you know misery.
Mm. But no, I think
That give you a
I
little
have
bit
some.
better understanding.
Yeah, with hope. Yeah, definitely. I think it's not everything is changing. Everything's changing.
Yeah,
Don't stop.
constantly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So, and I just hope that yeah,
yeah,
the sacrifice will be for the good. Yeah, I definitely have hope.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Definitely.
And I think part of it too is like I think sometimes what makes it hard is like uh I too have had a very hard time like when something doesn't turn out the way I want, like whether like an animal gets abused or you know people misuse or overuse their power or like humanity's suffering in one sense. Like that could be sometimes very hard to be like, why the hell is this happening? And then sometimes I need to realize that like and I have to check back in with myself and say, hey, like although that's like pain and misery and difficulties, it's not permanent. Like I
Mhm.
guess maybe a personal example I can give you is growing up in Afghanistan, like we had a lot of like family trauma that was caused by my uncle and my aunt, and there's a lot of like physical and emotional abuse towards us kids. And my mom obviously being a single mom, the one thing that she always told us was like, you know, we're not going to be in this hell every day, right? Like as we went through refugee program, as we went through like family trauma and all that, she consistently reminded us like we're not always going to be here. And that
Mhm.
kind of has always stuck with me, even though I haven't reminded myself. And sometimes I need to remind myself that like no matter how deep, intense somebody's pain is, that sensation we feel, it's not long lasting. It's impermanent. It may the life the stage of it may be like a month, 2 months, shorter, longer, but ultimately that pain resolves itself. Something else is going to take its place, right? Even for these kids, like they're kids now, and even if like this goes on for another year, 2 years, 10 years, ultimately they're going to come out of it in one way, shape, or form, right? Like they'll become adults, they'll have perspective, they'll gain strength, or whatever. And so I think part of it is like, so the reason why I bring in this example is like understanding like in many ways, like it's all impermanent, but and I think reminding ourselves of that like allows us not to lose so much hope and be like, oh crap, they're stuck in this forever, because that's how our brain tricks us into thinking like this is forever. They're screwed forever, and the reality is they're not, right? Because people like you, people like other agencies have compassion, and they have that their hope and desires is to get these people and children out of challenge and misery and pain. And I think that in itself is quite beautiful. But I think the foundation of that has to be like not clinging on to the fact that this is going to be a permanent suffering. It's impermanent. They're going to get through it. And I only say that because of my own personal experience, right? And sometimes like we can be biased with that, but so I don't know if that helps in any way of kind of saying,
Oh, it
hey,
helps, but
they'll get through it.
yeah, but I mean, the reality in Afghanistan is there's still kids there, and it's not. I mean, America lost. They said they retreated, but they lost. I mean, the Taliban are back. They lost. They lost in Vietnam. They lose all the wars that they get into, right? Not to make it political, but
Yeah,
you were very lucky, right? You were lucky.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
I'm not. I don't want to be patronizing, but
No, no, of course.
what's
Right.
I mean, what's going on in Afghanistan now? It's the same shit, right?
In some sense, yeah, yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah.
but
Well, and that's kind of what I mean is like, we could see it as luck, we could see it as like natural way of life, but ultimately these kids are gonna get through this, right? Whether it's one individual at a time or a family at a time or like a country or city or nation at a time, like they'll get through this. Like I know
yeah,
that there's enough courage and humanity within us individuals to know that like if it gets too far, and I guess how getting too far is different and quite subjective, like somebody will step in to help out. I mean, there's already agencies helping out, right? So I think that
yeah,
gives me a lot of hope and optimism, which is important for conversations like these, for things
yeah.
like
But
this to
you're talking
die,
about there's a big picture, and then there's my personal picture, and then
right?
there's the situation that's happening there.
Yeah,
So it's three
yeah,
different things that you're talking about. Now, me personally, if that's what you're trying, if you want me to address that first,
yeah, yeah.
I'm high, and I'm kind of. I know that when I'm happy, that I'm going to be sad. I know when I'm sad, I'm going to be happy. So I'm okay.
Perfect. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Thing. Sometimes I just have to not get too sad and not get too happy. And then like maybe for a couple of weeks I've been sad, and that's been the worst I've felt for
Yeah,
years because
yeah,
of
yeah.
the project stopped. And then and that was what was I was just concentrating on the project. It was keeping me, the project stopped, I stopped doing yoga, and I stopped talking with Lola as well. But now in the past couple of days we're back working again.
Mhm.
I don't know, but I had a tough 2 weeks. But I mean,
Mm.
then I just thought, well, I'm not in Gaza, you know?
Yeah, perspective. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that's my personal thing. Now, the
Yeah.
situation in Gaza, we can talk about that. And then the big picture, so it's three different things, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think it all ties in together, right? Like even though Gaza's picture, when we look at Gaza, it's a city, of course, but it's like within Gaza, there's individual humans who have their own stories, and of course, they're under this umbrella of like oppression and a lot of pain that they're going through. But even within that pain, within that society, each individual has their own story, their
Well,
own way
this
of
is what I
living.
wanted to talk to you about because, right, I'm not, and I mean, Gaza is completely like a head fuck. Excuse me, but that for me, that's a head fuck.
Yeah.
My experience was I went to Bethlehem and I met the kids. They played football. Now, uh, this is how I thought you could help. Like you could help me with some way of talking to these kids, the parents. How do
Yeah.
I talk to them? Now, the latest news from the kids is they can't afford to train and they're not playing matches, and maybe the team's falling apart
Okay.
because there's no money. They have to pay somebody to train. I mean, the training costs maybe like the equivalent of $5,
Yeah.
but they can't afford. There's no, the economy's finished, the West Bank.
Yeah.
So I would like to forget about my personal thing and forget about the big picture.
Yeah.
If you can help me with these kids, and because they can't afford to train now, we've got some buttons to throw at it. You know, not no a small amount of money,
Yeah.
but if I can help the kids train for a few months,
Yeah.
But I just the communication's difficult.
Not there. Okay. Yeah. So for that, of course, yeah, what I can do is I can reach out to a few of my friends that speak Arabic that would be willing to do a communication, and then um how would you like to do it? To Would it be individual kids that you'd want to communicate with? Would you?
First of all,
Yeah.
we have to talk to the manager.
Okay.
And now he's a lawyer, and but I don't know. It's sad
Mm-hmm.
in the West Bank right now, and also I think people are afraid to speak. Now I always say, let's do. I love to do because I love to Zoom. I love to record, and I even want to put it on YouTube. But I know that I shouldn't be doing that. But because there's a girl who worked in a hotel there. Now she won't speak. Now I think they're afraid to speak. Now then I research it and I get paranoid. I think
Yeah.
maybe you Mossad or you CIA, why you want to help, you know?
Mm. Mm.
And people are definitely afraid, and there is mind control. There is techniques that Americans use, you know, and the Mossad, and they don't
Okay.
want anybody. I know there's a whole. I don't want to sound like a paranoid freak, but I know that shit is going down, and they're trying to control the social media. I've been shadow banned. Sorry, I'm
Oh,
jumping around. Excuse me. Sorry,
no. Okay.
but
Yeah.
just
So you said talking to the manager is going to be the important part then to as far as okay, because you said that so did the students tell you that their training is kind of falling apart, or did the
the
manager tell you?
manager, but the people, you know, the Palestinians are very proud.
Okay.
They wouldn't want to. That if you, I don't know, you haven't been there, right? But I'm sure it's the same. I'm sure it's the same. Not the same, but they're very hospitable, and they'll invite you into the house. They feed you, but I think they're proud. They won't ask for help.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they're not going to say we can't afford. It took me a while to find out that the team maybe wasn't happening, and maybe they can't afford training. So I think that's. I think they're. I understand that. I don't ask for help either. Asking for
Right.
help is really difficult, you know.
It is. It is difficult. It can be. Right. Okay. So then I think that would be a good idea then to maybe kind of set up a meeting with him. How is his English?
Great. He's a lawyer. He's
Okay.
actually Greek, pal. He's Orthodox. A lot
Okay.
of people there are Orthodox Greek. Everybody thinks Palestinian. They're Muslim, and I don't know. You in America, you know, probably know how American Muslims get treated in America. You're not Muslim, right? But
I don't practice any
there
religion.
is like exactly as soon as you. I mean, there is not a cliche, but there is just racism. It's just like
Like a bias.
casual racism, right?
I mean, I guess I'm not out there much or practicing, but I imagine and I guess through my practice, through my clinical practice, and just kind of being up to date and reading and just some vicarious cases, I imagine there's that kind of anywhere we go, right? That with
Anyway, yeah,
religion.
there's a big community in I mean in Palestine. There's lots of Christian Orthodox.
Okay.
I mean, the general opinion is they're all terrorists, right? I mean, that's why Israel's getting away with what's happening. I don't. I'm jumping around from personal and political because it's
Yeah.
all entangled, and this is something that I spoke with Lola about. We have to kind of disentangle things, try and focus, but
Yeah.
it's all mixed up.
Right. I mean, it always will be, and I think the duty will be there to kind of remind ourselves, we're kind of going out the lane a little bit. Let's bring it back. And so, I guess as far as then so your goal is to kind of get in communication with the kids, right? To see if
Yeah.
they're training. And then can I ask then right now, and even now I'm kind of going in a different direction. So what's the kind of last conversation you and Lola had in terms of like where you want to start, or I guess restart with the project? Is it just communication and then next step and the next step? What does that look like?
Yeah. We wanted to find out the situation with the team. We want to help. That's it. It's basically are they training?
Okay,
Um,
sorry, give me 1 second.
okay, no, cool.
Sorry, I lost you. I don't know where you're at. Oh, there we go. Okay. Give me 1 second. One of my
Yeah,
friends needs to drop off a key to my work, so
I need to feed my cat anyway, but yeah.
perfect.
What are you screaming about? You want water? That's it. Me.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I'm just seeing if
Um,
Lola wants to join, but I think that's another thing, like she's got her movement sort of thing that, but I think it's all connected. She wants to do movement and movement therapy, through
yeah.
dance and
Yeah.
artistic expression.
Yeah.
And, so she's kind of concentrating on that, but yeah, oh, okay. So the kids, yeah, what I would like from you is how do we kind of first of all, we have to ask the manager and then we have to ask the parents, right?
Okay. As far as, so what's the communication you want to have with the kids? Just kind of checking in regularly, or what's the
It's
goal
just
there?
basically it's a WhatsApp group.
Okay. No, no, I'm asking the conversation that we have with the manager and the parents, what are we trying to ask there? Like just if we can talk with the kids, or if we can, what's the goal there?
Well, I would never want to tell the manager of the kids the ultimate goal is to get them on tour and get them a game because I wouldn't want to get their hopes up. But yeah, it's basically just to communicate with them without being some sort of voyeuristic. It could be like people could say, "Oh, you're being voyeuristic." It's like sort of like how they take people on tour of the refugee camps and it's like a holiday thing, and it's kind of a weird, sick. I think.
Mm.
Do
But I
you know
mean,
what I
that's
mean?
not our goal, right? That's not that's not our goal.
But
Or
that's
that's
what I would be weary of, and I wouldn't want to look like I'm. I don't know. It's hard. It's a hard way to approach it to get. I
yeah.
would. Yeah, I'm not really sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think just kind of communicating what the goal is going to be important. I mean, obviously, like you said, you want to be realistic and you want to say, hey, like, you know, without if the goal is not to really tell them that, here's the ultimate goal, then maybe kind of telling them like, what is the reason for this, continuous connection and calls? Is it just to check in with one another? Is it to have like some sort of a like support group or whatever the case may be? Like what's the goal with this? Because that also will determine the level of commitment, right? So if it's not
Mm.
something that is gonna um matter to them, it's like, oh, it's just a bunch of your friends and teammates that just want to check in and you guys can say hi. They're like, well, our teammates and friends live here, I could just check in with them in person.
Well,
Like,
there's
yeah,
the Arabic problem straight away on the group. They just type away in Arabic, and
yeah,
we talk about football basically, the
okay,
Real Madrid Dortmund final.
okay,
But they talk a lot in Arabic,
okay,
and a couple of the kids are good. We'd have to find a kid that spoke English, and it would be like I would get Ugo to speak to them, and it's good for Ugo as well. I
okay.
imagine it's great for them. I don't know if you were enough when. Do you remember when you were 10 years old? Would you have the opportunity to talk to kids in the West, or would it?
Oh gosh, when I was 10 years old, oh man. uh I don't even remember. I think, yeah, for at the time for me it was really about like, kind of seeking safety and just kind of and I don't know if that's the case for these kids over there. Um Yeah, but like first a part a sense of community and togetherness is important. And so if that's the goal, then maybe kind of making that clear, like, hey, we just want to check in with you all. And um because often kids are gonna be like, well, what's in it for me? Right?
Definitely, yeah.
Well, not even kids. I shouldn't blame that on kids. Like every individual has a tendency to say, like, what's in it for me? And
Hmm.
so maybe you and Lola can kind of come up with a kind of something that would kind of keep the kids' interest, if that's kind of the goal, to check in. If it's simply that you want to maintain the group together, then maybe kind of make that clear for them too. And then or if it's just kind of communicating in Arabic, then I can certainly, like I said, help get a friend to jump in and just kind of translate and communicate between all of you if that's what you need. But kind of for me, just to understand like in what specific way that you want this, like the help of the somebody who speaks Arabic, is going to be just something that would help me out.
Yeah, I mean, there's Google Translate, but it's like when the conversation is flowing, you don't want to be going into translate and backwards
Yeah,
and forwards, and then it doesn't work, especially with
yeah,
kids. Kids have got their own way of speaking, and they use a lot of emojis and all that. But
yeah,
right now, we don't need a translator. What we need is advice on, like you say. I mean, what goal do we say? How do we frame it?
Mhm.
Is there any other ways of doing it that isn't WhatsApp group? I would love to communicate with them, but they can't receive mail there. The Israelis don't let the mail go through. We wanted to send T-shirts, and they said you can't send anything. We won't get it.
yeah. Well, I wonder then if somehow, because yeah, I mean, with barriers of sending mail, sending a post or this or that, where the kids could even, for instance, if your kids soccer team wanted to make like, a simple letter, writes letters or drawings or whatever and send it over to kids, like it would be a lot harder for them to get there. But so maybe if the goal is to kind of give them a t-shirt or things like that, see if locally somebody could do that and you send them the money if that's at all possibility,
Mhm.
so that they can have that sense of unity and things of that sort. But yeah, I think that would be the other part of it is like, what's kind of the objective of meeting, right? What's the objective of the group? What's the objective? Because, like I said, simply if you don't want the group to die out, or die down, uh,
Well,
it,
they're facing. You know what they're facing. I mean, they're afraid of what's going to happen next.
yeah,
And it's funny how you say die out, but I mean that the ultimate goal of what is when they're finished in Gaza, they're going to start. They're already doing it in the West Bank. Now, this is sorry to jump into that again, but that's what they fear. They're afraid, but they wouldn't openly express that fear. I don't think.
right. And so what we can do is then, if the goal is just kind of listen to them and understand and kind of, because in this, like, I guess, what is the thing to tell a kid if
Here's the
they,
goal. Like I've just thought of it. The social infrastructure is not there, and that the goal is to have a social infrastructure that is being constantly for the past 100 years wiped out. It's to I don't know. It sounds like grandiose.
Mhm. Well, I guess how could that look? What would that look like for this group then?
So that they could have money to train, they get matches maybe, and they can, like, simple as that. Just train, play football, not be afraid of being shot when they go to train,
Okay.
which is happening.
Just some of the things that, and then I guess which of those can you and Lola help with, do you think?
We can help with. Oof, I don't know. Unless it's really difficult unless I go there and physically I'm there, and I don't want to throw money at it. I mean, we've got some money, but what, you just throw money at it? But then I even thought last night I watched the team. This girls' team played in Dublin,
Mhm.
and then today they returned to Palestine. So they got their trip to Dublin, they return, and then wow, how must that feel? They're back there.
Yeah,
They're in the refugee camp. They got their
yeah,
trip, and now they're home. So I
yeah,
also thought, wow,
yeah.
nothing's really changed.
Well, and well, something changed temporarily, right? And then it's kind of back for now. And then, but like I said, it's not forever going to be that way, right? It's just kind of a
Yeah.
back and forth, right? And so I think it's important to remember and have hope and optimism. while also recognizing the pain and the suffering. Like I said,
Mhm.
we have to give both equal attention, like the goodness equal attention and the badness equal attention.
They were crying. They were so emotional. They were crying. The generations came from Canada. 3 generations that have been.
Yeah.
So these kids went to play in Dublin, and then their grandparents came from Canada, because there's 8 million around the world Palestinians. There's probably millions of Afghanistan people around the world as well. Sorry, you don't mind if I sort of relate it that way?
That's fine. No worries. Humans are humans. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
We've got 1 minute left. I don't know.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that's let's kind of maybe write me an email with like a few things that you feel like we need to kind of communicate to them, and then if you want to set up a meeting with the manager, and kind of also get his input, like what he thinks is a barrier
I'm
and
talking
things.
to him tonight. I'm going to talk to him tonight.
Okay. Yeah, and then just kind of maybe talk to him about this conversation, and then see if he has any guidance for us, and then we can maybe meet sometime soon and then talk again.
We didn't get to talk about your meditation, your race.
The meditation was pretty profound, incredible. The race was pretty good, a little difficult, but yeah, I'm in a good place. I appreciate it. But I would
You're
just
good,
want
man.
to check in with you, and then wanted to send you some, compassion and kindness, and just taking care of yourself. All right.
Thank you so much for your time. Your hair looks good. I like the haircut.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you so much,
Yeah,
Wyatt.
of course. You be well. Like, reach out to me anytime, and then we'll chat again.
Yeah, man. Thank you so
All right.
much.
Of course. You take care.
Ciao.
Bye,
Inshallah.
Mark. All right, bye.
Ciao.